Thank you. I haven't done one of these before. It's a little scary, but seems like a great group. I thought it was an odd choice that the band played my song "Road to Nowhere" as people were coming in, but maybe most of you missed that part. I'm wary of giving advice to other people. It's kind of a risky thing to do, and everybody's situation, everybody's vision is a little bit different, and it's not going to be the same as mine. I wonder if my experience are relevant to anybody else. So when I was first asked to do this, the first idea I came up with was to make a list, and I started making a list of things that I thought, these are things that I've learned, these are truisms that I've learned in life. Here's one of them, that's one right there, which is, don't use a font smaller than 8. Here's another one, which money changes everything, which is sobering but true. It's not original to me, but it's worth remembering. And this one, which remember the hairy arm, which doesn't make any sense until I explain it to you, but one of the jobs I got when I first came to New York was working in a graphic design place that did this little stand-up ads that Revlon mascaras and lipsticks would have at the counters in department stores, and they designed those. And it was not a complicated design thing, but I was working in what was called the stat room, which was where you would set the type and enlarge and reduce the various images. This was all before all this stuff could be done on a laptop. And one of the lessons that was imparted to me was, when you do your work, your design, and then you present it to the client, you have to leave something that they can correct. And you don't want them to correct something that you really value. So you intentionally forget to airbrush the hair off the model's arm, or you leave the arm hairy, and then they can go, "This looks great, but you idiot, why didn't you take the hair off the arm?" And you go, "Oh, geez, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll do that." And there you go. You've gotten everything else that you wanted to do get past the gatekeeper. Not a very profound lesson. So then I decided this list thing is not going to work. So I went to pie charts, and this one is much more sobering, but it has a very happy ending. I asked myself, well, let's see if there are stats out there that tell us what's in store for a graduating class in the arts, and where does everybody end up? And these stats come from an organization called SNAP, which is this is real, the Strategic National Arts Alumni Project, and it's a national survey. It's not just based here. If it was here, it would probably be very different. But okay, I don't know if everybody can read it, but you can see that the small, very small slices of pie are, okay, the entire pie is everybody in who goes to the fine arts schools. And then the little tiny pieces of pie, which are good if you're on a diet, that is the percentage of people who graduate who actually end up working, having a life working in the field that they majored in. Doesn't look very good. However, I said to myself, well, that's not so bad. I remembered when I first moved to New York, my goal, I went to art school as well, and my goal was to be a fine artist and show in galleries and all that kind of thing. So I had a body of work. I kept making work when I came to New York. But at the same time, I was writing songs and playing music with some friends. And, well, the art stuff sort of didn't really take off very well. I didn't know where to go with it or how to move that along. But the music stuff we just kept doing for fun, and we auditioned at a club, and it went okay. We started playing there to 20 people or whatever, and we didn't take it seriously. We didn't have any ambition. We didn't have any plan, and that's what succeeded. So I didn't make it into one of those little pie slivers either. I ended up in the larger blue section, very appropriate color, which is, I don't know if you can read it, those are people who work, oh, wait a minute, no, it's the big red color, sorry. The big red section, which is people who work in the arts but not in their chosen field. I have to say, it worked out well for me. And my advice there would be, don't throw out or undervalue the stuff you do in your spare time. That might be the stuff that ends up being the things that really work for you. You think you're just fooling around, after you've done your other stuff, but that might be the stuff that works for you. Okay, we're going to go. It's going to get worse before it gets better. This is this is probably not really accurate because this is based on a national survey, and I thought, okay, let's take those percentages and see how many people in the arts departments in Columbia are actually going to end up working in their chosen fields. And of the writers, there's going to be 14 of you. In the theater, it's a big department, but 8. According to this thing, it's going to be 8 of you. Okay, you get the idea. It's really depressing, but it shouldn't be depressing. Okay, this one might be depressing. This is from the same survey. And, okay, this is national. This is not New York. In New York, maybe it's different. Of course, but in New York, this is the income. And in New York, of course, the expenses are, a little different than if you were an artist in Cincinnati. Wow. Where do we go from here? Okay, that's the end of the charts. Okay. Oh, I'm glad you're laughing. Well, when I saw this stuff, and I talked to some friends recently, I realized that one really doesn't need to be absolutist and single-minded about what your career, the subject you major in, that didn't work for me. It might not work for a lot of you, but it doesn't mean that you don't end up with a satisfying and fulfilling life in the arts. You're still working in the arts. You're still doing creative work. And furthermore, I think I talked about this with some friends, and I would like to propose that there's kind of two directions of looking at one's future in the arts, 2 ways of making a life there. There's this guy, a friend recently said, oh, look at this thing, this guy, Seth Godin. He's like an entrepreneur and public speaker, which I don't know what that means. But, okay, that's what he did. And he described it as getting picked and picking yourself. He says that's how he divides the 2 career paths. And I also talked to an actor and a theater director, a guy named Paul Lazar that I've known for years, and he does downtown work. He works with his wife, a woman named Annie B. Parson, who I've worked with a lot, and they do wonderful work, and they have a theater company called Big Dance Theater. Anyway, he said something similar to that to me in different words, and he said, he started, of course, he comes from theater and acting and that background, so that's the example that he used. And he said there's one choice for an actor. Okay, now I'm talking to the theater department here, where the people come out and they get their headshots done and they try and find an agent, and they get acting classes, and they spend years auditioning, trying to get on a TV pilot or a film or a Broadway play or movies or things like that, and with the idea that if you can only get a handle or a foot on the rung of that ladder, get onto that step, then you're on your way. It's like, and like this guy Godin says, that's being picked. That's somebody else. That's auditioning and somebody else picking you and going, okay, we're going to let you onto the first rung of the ladder. And I've been through some of that. There's projects that I've tried to get done and spent years and years and years doing kind of failed pitches and all that stuff. And it could be that they're horrible pitches. I would like to think not, but yeah. It's sometimes a psychologically difficult road to take. If you get up that ladder, the rewards are really high. You can make money. You have a successful career, one hopes. You might even get invited to give a commencement address. But again, your fate, the way you, in that choice, your fate is left up to other people. You could be really, really good and not get picked. If you don't get picked, it doesn't mean you're not good, but you might not get it. This guy Paul, on the other hand, works downtown, and he's had a whole life. He's maybe not quite as old as I am, but he's had a whole life in the downtown theater world. And he and his wife, and other people I know, they didn't wait to be picked doing the other things, although he occasionally acts in a commercial movie. They didn't wait. They invented this, dance, theater, music hybrid, and they started doing that little by little, and they could do it in small places and probably for not very much money. I mean, they didn't get paid very much, sometimes almost nothing at all, but they started doing the stuff right away, and according to this, and in this guy Godin's phrase, they picked themselves. And Paul said to me that this world, which the analogy works for visual arts and writing and everything else as well. I mean, okay, we'll get to that. He said it's less hierarchical and more accessible. And by that, I think he meant that it's more accessible in that you can, if you decide to do something with some of your friends or whatever it happens to be, you can kind of do it. It might not have a large audience, it might not be a lot of money coming in, but you can do it. And by the no hierarchy, he means that there's also fewer rules about this is how you do this. You kind of make up the rules as you go. And often the people who work together on something, there isn't the hierarchy of I'm the boss and you just do what I say. There's a little bit more, tends to be a little bit more give and take, everybody contributing something. Paul also said to me, he said, there's no guarantee of making a good living, money-wise, in that world. So that, if that's what you want, a monetary success, if that's where the kind of value lies, maybe you made a wrong choice quite a few years ago. But if you want the satisfaction of having a creative life that can go on for an entire lifetime, it's not impossible. It can happen. Wow. You can work in an area that doesn't exist yet. You invent it yourselves, whether it's a hybrid between theater and writing, whatever it is. It may be a new form, and of course that's going to happen. It's been happening forever. It's going to happen again, and it's going to be you guys who make it happen. I was at the Obie Awards the other night, and I had the same feeling. I realized that these people were winning, people were winning awards. Some of them were known, but really most of them, unless you're in the theater world, which I am barely, most of them are unknown, and yet they've been working, a lot of them, for years and years, decades sometimes, and had these incredibly satisfying lives doing what it is that they love to do. I don't know all their financial circumstances, if that's, because I think for some of you, that's got to be really scary right now. But they all seemed incredibly happy. They seemed incredibly happy, satisfied with the, with their lives. And I thought, well, this is really what matters. That's really what matters, and it's something that's not reflected in these pie charts or graphs. And that's where these graphs and pie charts lead us astray. They give us kind of false values and make us think that we have to grade everything according to this criteria, which is not true. The decision is yours, ours, whatever, and that I believe that there is a way to have a very, very satisfying, enriching, and creative life, which in the arts, but it depends on what criteria you use to look at that. But I would say if you're being creative, there's happiness, satisfaction, all that, you're succeeding. That's it for me.